It all started on a quiet autumn afternoon in a small town nestled in the rolling hills of Oregon. The town of Maplewood was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, where life moved at a slower pace, and where big city dreams often felt like distant fantasies. For Emma Carter, a 28-year-old bookstore owner, life in Maplewood was peaceful but predictable. She had inherited the Oakwood Book Nook from her late grandmother, a cozy little shop filled with the scent of old paper and cinnamon-scented candles. It was her sanctuary, her little world, where she could lose herself in stories even as she lived a life that felt stuck in place. One crisp evening, as the golden sun dipped below the horizon, Emma was closing up the store when the bell above the door chimed. She turned, expecting to see one of the town's usual visitors, but instead, her breath caught in her throat. Standing there, in a worn-out leather jacket and a beanie pulled low over his face, was none other than Keanu Reeves. For a moment, Emma thought she was imagining things. Why would one of Hollywood's most beloved actors be in Maplewood, let alone her little bookstore? He pulled off his beanie, revealing the unmistakable dark eyes and kind expression that had captured hearts worldwide. "Sorry, I didn't mean to startle you," Keanu said, his voice soft and familiar. Emma blinked rapidly, gripping the counter. Keanu gave a small smile. "Keanu? And you must be Emma. I saw the sign outside." He gestured to a chalkboard near the entrance that read, "New arrivals. Find your next favorite story here." She shook herself out of her daze. "Place. I own this place. What brings you to Maplewood?" Keanu ran a hand through his hair, glancing around at the warm, book-lined walls. "I've been driving cross-country, taking a break from all the chaos. I like small towns. They remind me of what's real." Emma didn't know what to say. Here was Keanu Reeves, standing in her shop, looking as casual as any local. He moved toward a shelf, running his fingers along the spines of old classics. "Got any recommendations?" Emma nodded, stepping out from behind the counter. "If you like philosophy, I think you'd love The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. But if you're in the mood for something different, East of Eden by Steinbeck is a masterpiece." Keanu's eyes lit up. "Steinbeck? Sounds like a good way to spend the evening." She handed him a worn copy, and for a moment, their fingers brushed. A strange energy passed between them, something unspoken, something unexpected. As Keanu purchased the book, he gave Emma a thoughtful look. "Do you know any good places to eat around here?" Emma hesitated. Was he asking for a recommendation, or was he asking her? "There's a diner down the street," she said finally. "Maggie's. Best homemade pie in town." Keanu grinned. "You've convinced me." He glanced at her name tag. "Emma, would you like to join me?" Her heart nearly stopped. Was she really about to have dinner with Keanu Reeves? Sure," she said, trying to sound casual. "I was about to close up anyway." As they walked through the crisp autumn air toward the diner, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she had just stepped into a story of her own. Inside Maggie's, the scent of grilled cheese and apple pie filled the air. The diner was nearly empty, save for a few regulars who barely glanced their way. In a town like Maplewood, celebrity gossip wasn't a priority. They slid into a booth, and Keanu leaned back, seeming completely at ease. "So, Emma, what's your story?" She chuckled. "Nothing as exciting as yours, I'm sure." "Try me," he said, a playful glint in his eyes. She told him about her childhood in Maplewood, about inheriting the bookstore, and about how she often dreamed of traveling but never found the courage to leave. Keanu listened intently, nodding thoughtfully. "That's a beautiful story," he said. "You bring stories to people every day. That's kind of magical." Emma laughed. "I don't know if it's magical." Keanu shook his head. "It is. Trust me." The night stretched on as they talked about books, life, and the strange twists of fate. By the time Emma walked back to her bookstore, she knew something had shifted. She had met Keanu Reeves, and she wanted to see him again. To her surprise, he kept coming back. Days turned into weeks, and every evening, Keanu would stop by her shop, sometimes just to chat, sometimes to pick up a new book. He told her he was staying in a rented cabin by the lake, enjoying the stillness of small-town life. Soon it became routine. Dinners at Maggie's. Late-night conversations over coffee. Slow walks under the starlit sky. Emma tried to remind herself that this was temporary, that Keanu would eventually leave. But with each passing day, she found herself falling for him. And then, one evening, he asked her something that changed everything. "Come with me," Keanu said, standing in the warm glow of the bookstore's lights. Emma blinked. "Come where?" He hesitated as if choosing his words carefully. "I don't know where I'm going next. But I know I don't want to leave you behind." Her heart pounded. This was insane. She barely knew him and yet she had never felt so understood. "But my shop," she started. "You can always come back," Keanu said gently. "But what if there's something more out there for you?" Tears welled in her eyes. He was offering her the adventure she had always dreamed of. But was she brave enough to take it? For days, she wrestled with the decision. And then the press found out. Somehow, a photo of Keanu and Emma leaving the bookstore together ended up online. Within hours, tabloids exploded with headlines. Keanu Reeves' secret small-town romance. Who is the mystery woman capturing Keanu's heart? Paparazzi descended on Maplewood, flashing cameras and shouting questions. Emma's quiet life had been turned upside down. She panicked, retreating into her bookstore as reporters camped outside. Keanu, ever calm, stayed by her side. "I'm so sorry, Emma," he said, his voice heavy with guilt. "I didn't want this for you." She looked at him, really looked at him. Here was a man who had spent his life in the spotlight, who had somehow found peace in her little world. And she realized she didn't want to let him go. So, she made a choice. She walked outside, faced the cameras, and said, "Yes, I'm dating Keanu Reeves. And I don't care what anyone thinks." The world went wild. Social media exploded with messages of support. People admired the way she had embraced the moment instead of running from it. And in that chaos, Keanu smiled at her. "You're incredible." As the months passed, their love story became legendary. They traveled together, but always returned to Maplewood, where it all began. And just like that, Emma's life became a story worth telling.